because there will be more news and your reporting unfolding throughout the day. Thank you so much for your time. I'm just going to turn it over to the host of the show, Kendrick. Bringing back here with Richard Jefferson, Tim Legler, Big Perk, and Zach Lowe. So we just heard a whole lot of information from Woj. I just want to start with you, Legs. What of all of that stood out to you?
Well, I think a couple things. First of all, it's almost incomprehensible to me to think that like those two guys could end up together again. When you want out, you want out, right? Kevin Durant is not very appealing. The situation that's played out in Brooklyn. In fact, this has to go down as one of the most epic failures in the history of this league, does it not? I mean, that was a surefire championship on paper when those three guys came together. And that's what I'm saying. It was the most unguardable offensive trio in the history of this league at the top of any roster. And look what they have to show for it now as they break it up. So it's interesting to me to see what's going to happen. I'm almost just as interested to see what's going to happen with Kyrie Irving. Yeah. I mean, where is Kyrie Irving left in this and in terms of his value around the league and what you'd be willing to give up to get a guy like Kyrie Irving now? After what's played out the last 2 years.
No, and again, I know this is, Kevin Durant and it's all of the things that we're talking about, but when you look at this situation, do you really think that, this is one of the most epic failures? And again, yes, right now it looks super intense. The Nets had a ton of talent, and they built it up. They brought in two guys, and they gave control to those two guys. And I don't want to say complete control, but they gave a certain amount of control, as a lot of star teams do. And people are like, this is what happens when you give it to the players. And you're like, I've seen franchises be ruined by teams, by management, by coaches. I've seen them ruined by everybody. So let's not just start saying here, you can't give players control. That's not true. You just have to make sure who you give control to, who you are taking advice from.
That's the big thing.
That's the big thing. Let's focus on.
Well, we can talk about a very specific who in this case.
Let's focus on the who,
because the who is very relevant.
But to your point, yes, was this team have a ton of talent? But when you look at the talent and you're saying, all the talent, but everyone on this panel knows talent ain't the only thing that wins championships. It's chemistry, it's basketball IQ, and it's availability. And these are things that the Nets were lacking. I don't think, obviously, we know they weren't lacking talent, but chemistry obviously wasn't there. All of the things that they needed to be in that pot wasn't there. And we can say, well, it was Kyrie, it was this. And I heard you talking about Sean Marks. Sean Marks built up a team, brought in stars. Stars did not behave the way they should, and now they're moving on. I think that the way I look at Sean Marks, he's doing everything right, because if the Nets do this right, they have two routes. One, they can farm and destroy any team and pull everything back. The second thing, they will be a playoff team, in my opinion, next season if they do this correctly.
With the departures of Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving.
Go get an all-star. Let's say hypothetically you can trade for Brandon Ingram. Let's say hypothetically you can get Brandon Ingram a pick and two young players, and then you can ship off Kyrie. If you have Brandon Ingram, who's a star, I'm throwing out, sorry, Brandon, I'm just throwing out your name ideally. But if you put all of these guys together, don't forget they made the playoffs without KD and Kyrie, with young guys that were fighting and all pushing in the same direction.
But they had James Harden.
No.
Oh, you mean before? With Karis LeVert and Jared Allen.
And D'Angelo Russell. And it's like they made the postseason before. So if you can, all that talent that you shipped away, if you bring in quality pieces, a young all-star, a top 10 pick, if you bring that all in with what you're asking for.
Yeah, but that's fine. There's a lot of ifs, but like Leg said, it still was a failure.
Yeah, 100% a failure.
No matter how you want to slice it. But no matter how you want to slice it or dice it, no matter. They had to pick a new coach. They got rid of Kenny Atkinson. I didn't think he deserved to lose his job. No. They brought in Steve Nash. Sean Marks had to okay that. As much as KD and Kyrie had power, he still had to approve that. He still had to sign Steve Nash. He had to still bring him back following year.
And you know what he also did? Okay. He also re-signed Kevin Durant. And now they're about to get the whole farm for him back.
And he also lost James Harden. He's also about to lose Kevin Durant, who's arguably the best player in the game today. So I'm not saying, listen to me, I'm not saying that all the blame is on Sean Marks, but he should have some of the blame.
That's what I'm saying. You're going to get something about.
I just want to pause. I want to pause for 1 second. Let's just pause and take a breath. Kendrick Perkins just said, could the Nets buy out Kyrie Irving? And it wasn't a ridiculous question. That's the territory of insanity we are in right now.
That's some good work if you can get it. Let me go do nothing for my $39 million and negotiate down a little bit, and then go hit free agency and go where I want to go anyway.
Number two, Legs just said what I wanted to say, which is like the whole NBA just watched what happened.
Yes.
Why would I give up my whole team to pair Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant? I just watched this movie. I know how it ended. I saw it.
If these two guys went to almost any, there's probably about, let's say, two-thirds of the franchises. If this would have gone on and you would have had a vaccine mandate, you would have had injuries, you would have had all of this stuff, the same scenario would have happened almost anywhere.
It wasn't a crazy question.
No, it wasn't.
But that's what makes it. But that's what makes it so wild.
The third thing I wanted to say is I'm glad we've said Jared Allen's name, because that also throws into relief. Like, let's just remember why Kenny Atkinson got fired or lost his job or whatever terminology they use. A big part of it was he refused to start DeAndre Jordan over Jared Allen.
Over the guy that was an all-star the next year.
Over the guy who now we're looking at as the Cavs as being a real threat to be a riser.
Sit back and just like look at the rubble of this and just how ridiculous. I'm with you. Like, why? Am I supposed to call them and be like, hey guys, I know it failed in Brooklyn. Do you promise it's going to work? You promise?
One thing I want to say is I really want to say how I want to echo what Richard said. If the Nets handle this situation right, particularly with Kevin Durant and what they get, they're going to be a playoff team next year. They should be a playoff team next year. The concept of, let's just get a bunch of picks and some younger guys that haven't established themselves, I don't think that's what Steve Nash was brought in to coach. Yeah. That type of team. They're going to try to get back all-stars in their 20s, probably a couple of them, and picks. And then you can go and you can compete, not going to be a contender, but you can compete for a playoff spot in the Eastern Conference for sure.
Absolutely, and that's why when you're looking at Kyrie Irving, it would make sense to me if we hear later down the road that a team says, something like, well, they agreed to this many number of games played or something like that, some sort of back stoppages that they need to put in order to ensure a little bit of protection here. I do want to bring in our Eastern Conference reporter, Tim Bontemps, who has some news for us. Tim, what do you got?
Well, I just wanted to play, Malik, a little bit off of what Richard and Tim were just saying, in that when you look at the situation the Brooklyn Nets are in, they have traded away their next several drafts because of the trade for James Harden. That, by the way, was only 18 months ago. Feels right now like it might have been 18 years ago when you think about everything that's happened over that stretch of time. But because of that, the Nets aren't in a typical situation where, as those guys were talking about, maybe you tear this thing down to the studs and build this thing up from the ground up with picks and draft picks, like, say, or young players and draft picks, like, say, the Houston Rockets did when they traded James Harden to Brooklyn. So I think the Nets are in a bit of a unique situation here where they can go out and get a bunch of draft picks and get players that are ready to win now and turn around and have guys like Ben Simmons, Joe Harris, Seth Curry on this team, and can be a team that is doing both things at once, able to compete for a position near the top of the Eastern Conference and still get some draft assets to kind of make up for the picks that they've traded away. So because of that, like these guys have been saying, I don't think it's necessarily a fait accompli that we're going to go into next season and the Nets are going to be a team that's winning 20 games and looking like they're going to be in the draft battle. Because of the fact they've traded those picks away, I think you're going to be looking at them going out there, and as Adrian has said earlier, going out and trying to get players that can help them win right now, because they do have a lot of talent on this roster, and they can still be a team that could be a factor in the East, because as everyone has said on the show, when you have a player like Kevin Durant with 4 years left on his contract, you can ask for
If the Lakers are able to find a taker for Russell Westbrook, they'll be in the market for another point guard, or at least a point guard-sized player, even if LeBron continues to operate as the primary playmaker. Some of his most successful lineups have included guards who could function off the ball and command attention as shooters outside, like Mario Chalmers, Kyrie Irving, and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. Bruce Brown might be a harder get than Martin due to interest from other teams, but he'd fill that role well on the taxpayer mid-level exception. Though he's often functioned as a rim runner over the last couple of seasons with the Brooklyn Nets, Brown started his career as a guard for the Detroit Pistons. And along that winding path, he's developed a wide range of skills that make him one of the game's most unique players. In his second season, he averaged 5.2 assists per 75 possessions. The next year, he went for 8.7 rebounds per 75 possessions, and in 2021-22, he shot a career-high 40.4% from three. If Brown could put that all together, he'd be an ideal off-guard to play alongside one of the best point forwards of all time. Trade for Malcolm Brogdon. The Los Angeles Lakers have been reluctant to attach sweeteners in trades to unload Russell Westbrook, but the Indiana Pacers might be able to back them off that stance. Per Mark Stein, LA reportedly offered Indiana a package that included Westbrook, Talon Horton-Tucker, and a draft pick for Malcolm Brogdon, and the Pacers refused. Given his lack of durability, he's only managed 48.7 appearances per season over the last 3 years. Going much further than that might seem unwise. However, the Lakers shouldn't abandon this idea. He's a career 37.6% three-point shooter who ranks in the top 20 all-time in career free throw percentage. And since he joined the Pacers, he's averaged